Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Hitting the Hardwood podcast, your home for all the latest Minnesota Lynx and WNBA news, analysis, and coverage. Thank you for tuning into another episode. I'm your host, Mitchell Hansen, and it's been a while. I appreciate you guys being a little lenient on the scheduling of the podcast and still tuning in. Scheduling conflicts, and I came down with a bug here a week or two ago, resulted in us pushing back the podcast a little bit, but we're back and we have a playoff edition because the 44 game regular season is in the books. It was an entertaining end to the regular season with just seeing how the playoff seeding would shake out and who would be a part of the 8-team playoff field. But the matchups are set. We have 8 teams vying for a WNBA title with games starting on Sunday. The first round is a best of 3 round, so first team to 2 wins, followed by the semifinals, which is best of 5. And for the first time, we have a best of 7 WNBA finals. So it will be a entertaining WNBA playoffs, and all of that starts on Sunday. We'll go through the matchups here. We obviously have Minnesota Golden State here in the first round. On one side of the bracket, they are joined by number 4 Phoenix and number 5 New York. And then on the other side, we have the second-seeded Las Vegas Aces going up against number 7 Seattle Storm. And then we have the third-seeded Atlanta Dream against the 6th-seeded Indiana Fever. So nothing short of entertainment here in the first round. It'll be a fun first round of the playoffs. And as I mentioned, the Lynx and Valkyries will tip off Game 1 on Sunday. So we're recording this podcast on Saturday. If you're listening to it before the game will be at noon Central Time on Sunday. If you're listening to it afterwards, the Lynx do play again on Wednesday in Game 2 in there's the Golden's. It's not in the Bay Area necessarily, where we've been accustomed to seeing Golden State play at the Chase Center. It's being moved to the SAP Center, which is in San Jose. So it will be a little bit of a different location, but nonetheless, these two teams will square off again in Game 2, and it'll be a road game for Minnesota. If there is a deciding Game 3, that will be back at Target Center in Minneapolis, and that will be on Friday. And once we have that game, then we will obviously have the semifinals round set. But best time of the year, my favorite time of the year, playoff basketball. You cannot beat it. And I know specifically for the Minnesota Lynx, they have some obvious motivation going into the postseason. They've had it really all season long, but motivation going into the postseason to kind of revenge that 2024 finals loss to New York. And they have a chance to face New York in the semifinals to kind of end the Liberties season and head back to the WNBA finals. But that will be a very intriguing matchup, the Phoenix-New York matchup, and who ends up coming out of that to face the winner of Minnesota and Golden State. But before we jump into the podcast this week, I want to just mention our Patreon page, patreon.com/hitting the hardwood. If you follow us on social media, you've been seeing that we've been talking about our Patreon page. Some have been asking what that is. Patreon, being part of our Patreon community, it does come with a small monthly fee, but that fee goes to support all of us at Hitting the Hardwood. Myself, Terry Horstman, Andrew Dukowitz, our entire team here at Hitting the Hardwood. It comes to us to help us continue to do this. We do this out of just basically interest, and it's all on the side for us. It's outside of our day jobs that we do day to day. We do it because we want to give back to you guys, and we think you deserve this coverage. And being a part of our Patreon community is one way of doing that. With being a patron, you get exclusive news, you get early access to podcasts, you get information that you don't get anywhere else. You get everything sent right to you, whether, all of the written content. So you don't have to go to 3 different sites to find my work, Terry's work, Andrew's work. We post that all in our Patreon page, and it comes right to your inbox. So it's just a convenient place to have all of the Lynx coverage that you want and that you deserve in one location. So like I said, patreon.com/hitting the hardwood. We have had a handful of new patrons this week, and I thank all of you for supporting Hitting the Hardwood. We could not do it without you guys and the support of our partners. So thank you for supporting. And if you haven't supported and it's not in your means, that's okay. We still appreciate you following, whether it's on social media reading our written work, or just listening to this podcast, as well as the Lynx Happy Hour podcast and the Missing Links podcast. But with me done rambling now, I'm really excited about this the podcast that we have this week, or kind of the chat that we have this week. We have all Hitting the Hardwood members getting together to chat about the Minnesota Lynx and Golden State Valkyries first round matchup, as well as just the layout of the entire WNBA playoffs in each matchup that we will see in the first round. But Terry Horstman and Andrew Dukowitz were kind enough to join me, and we sat down to talk all things Lynx and WNBA. So let's jump right into it. The gang is all here. We have, I think, for the Hitting the Hardwood podcast, first time. It might be, I think, first time. We have all three of us joining. That being Andrew Dukowitz, Terry Horstman, and myself, obviously Mitchell Hansen. Thank you guys for joining me. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having us on this beautiful playoff Saturday morning, Mitchell.
Absolutely. Playoff Eve. We have the full first day of playoff basketball, obviously on Sunday. I'll just start by kind of jumping right into things. When looking over the matchups of what we have in the first round and kind of basing it off what we've seen during the regular season, Terry, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on what we've seen or what we have in the first round matchup wise?
You talking Lynx Velks specifically, or are we
Just
looking
all
at
of
just
them. All of them. We'll definitely jump into Lynx Valks, but
for
just all of
sure?
them.
I mean, I think sort of the atopic matchup is kind of like Liberty Mercury. You have two teams that I think you could ostensibly see in the finals. I need to do more of a deep dive on just how healthy the Liberty are, because that's kind of been the question all year. But I think that's kind of outside of Lynx Valks, that's the one that folks are circling. And then I'll throw a bone to Indiana versus Atlanta, because I love it when you can look at the matchup and you see names of teams together that form another thing. So Fever Dream is always fun to just see pop up in a scores app. So shout out that matchup, Fever Dream, 2 p.m. ABC. But yeah, I think Liberty Mercury will tell us the most about what the rest of the playoffs might look like.
Andrew, what are your thoughts on what we have so far, or first round?
Yeah, I think, Lynx Valkyries obviously we'll get into, so I don't spend too much time there, but I'm just really interested to see how these other teams look, right? I mean, like Terry said, the Liberty, they've been hurt all season. It seems like Sabrina's still dealing with stuff. It seems like Stewie's still dealing with a little bit of that knee hangover. Jones has been out half of the season. Cloud's been in and out of the rotation with illness. I mean, can they kind of pull the chemistry together fast enough to make a deep run? You have Asia Wilson over there with Vegas. Is she going to continue this tear? Are they going to keep winning? I mean, I think they're at 16 in a row now, or 15 out of 16 in a row. I'm getting nods. 16 in a row. Can they keep that tear going, or are they going to come back down to earth at some point now that the competition is at a different level? And Atlanta, I mean, for me, it's, can their regular season success of being inside out, put someone really big and dominant on the block, shoot a ton of threes, can that kind of, honestly, like what the Timberwolves did a couple of years ago with Rudy, can that work in the playoffs, or is Griner going to start getting put in isolations and kind of exposed? So it's interesting, because I think the Lynx are kind of a completed product, and every other like top seed has these questions that I'm just like interested as a basketball nerd to see how they kind of play out.
I am really interested in the Vegas Storm matchup, because there's almost like nothing on paper that suggests we should expect anything but a 2-0 win from Vegas without Asia's playing. But the Storm can just make things so chaotic. And I saw, I think it was Off Ball, shout out Off Ball, who did like kind of like the unhinged WNBA team power rankings, and Seattle was like far and away the most unhinged. And that can, make a dramatic shift in things sometimes. Like we saw how powerful Skylar Diggins can be in that game where they not only beat the Lynx at Target Center, but came back from 21 points down. So I think that is kind of appointment television when the Aces and Storm play. I expect the Aces to win, maybe not comfortably, but I feel comfortable making that prediction. But it's Storm can be a Bruin from that Storm team at the risk of making a terrible pun there. But very, very we have 4 very interesting series, so
yeah,
I think the league should be thrilled.
We'll run through the game 1 schedule. Well, just the list of teams or games that we have on the first day of the playoffs. We obviously have Valkyries Lynx at noon Central Time.
Yes.
Fever Dream at 2 p.m. Central Time. Fever Dream. I had to put it that way, not the other way around. Liberty
it's Fever at Dream, so it makes sense.
It is.
If you say it's a dream fever, that's a different thing entirely that you might want to get checked out at a local urgent care.
We have Liberty Mercury at 4 p.m. Central Time, and then capped off by Storm Aces at 9 p.m. Central. And then on Tuesday, we have Dream Fever and Aces Storm. Wednesday, Mercury, Liberty, Lynx, Valkyries, and then Game 3, if necessary, will be on Thursday and Friday. Let's jump right into the Lynx Valkyries matchup, because I'll admit that I didn't really, kind of getting down to the stretch of the season, we were all looking at who's going to get that final playoff spot. And as a result, it was like, okay, are the Lynx going to be playing the Sparks? Are they going to be playing the Storm? Who are they going to be playing? And then it came to like a couple games left in the regular season. I'm like, whoa, Golden State, that could end up being a matchup. So I was kind of a little bit surprised and kind of caught off guard admittedly, with this matchup. But Andrew, I'll start with you. What are your initial thoughts on these two teams and how they match up?
Yeah, it's weird because I have watched a surprising amount of Valkyries games this year just because I think it's fun. They're a fun team. A bunch of, it's kind of an overdone trope at this point, but they're a bunch of 6 players of the year that have compiled to make a playoff team in the first year in franchise history. Natalie Nakase is just a really good defensive coach. I think, I had a piece come out this morning, Saturday, at Zone Coverage, that I kind of broke down the numbers of Golden State, and they're a really interesting team. They play, third in defense. They have the best field goal percentage against, so they hold teams to shooting a very low percentage. They hold teams to like the least amount of points in the paint in the league. Their perimeter defense is really good, but they play like 80% of their possessions in zone, which against a Cheryl Reeve offense that is just completely focused on ball movement, that poses a problem. The other side of the ball, the Valkyries are one of the slowest teams in the league, pace-wise, even pace per 40-wise. And they shoot a ton of threes. Over 40% of their field goal attempts are 3-pointers, but they're not good at making them. They're I think they're 8th or 9th finishing up in the league in 3-point percentage. And I had Conrado Pasquale on my podcast, The Missing Links, cheap plug on our own network.
Go listen to The Missing Links and Links Happy Hour.
Yes, listen to all of them. This is as Terry says, and I have adopted this. It might not be good content, but it's content.
It's content.
The good part is up for everyone
to
decide.
Say that?
You did say that on mine. I was like, we want to put out good content, and you were like, But it offensively, Conrado is kind of talking about the 3-point chucking, if you will, is largely due to they don't really have anyone on this team other than like Burton and Chechi that can get into the mid-range, and they don't really have anyone that can attack the rim. So their entire offensive scheme is basically, how can we get an open 3-pointer, because no one can really penetrate, which again, you're looking at a Lynx team that has Kayla McBride, Dejanay Carrington, Bridget Carlton, Courtney Williams is an above average perimeter defender, that they're going to be able to just kind of sick on these players. Every kind of angle I looked at, it just really doesn't seem great for the Valkyries. I think their style really plays into exactly how the Lynx want to force opposing teams to play. And when you're just naturally how Cheryl wants you to play, I feel like that's not a good thing. But that being said, they're a scrappy team. I mean, just
Yeah.
to close kind of my thought here is I could see them come in and kind of surprise the Lynx in game one. Maybe the Lynx are still clicking into gear. I don't know if I tend not to believe that, but there is that thought that the Lynx have taken their foot off the pedal. If they take game one and then in game two or three, those high volume threes start to fall, all of a sudden the Lynx could see themselves out of the playoffs. So it is a series that is dangerous, but by no means do I think the Lynx will. I don't even really expect them to lose a game.
Do you want to get your business in front of a passionate and dedicated fan base? Do you want to support the ever-growing landscape of women's sports? Hitting the Hardwood Network is here for you. We offer partnerships and sponsorships at various levels, including advertising on the Hitting the Hardwood and Lynx Happy Hour podcasts, the Hitting the Hardwood newsletter, Patreon page, website, social media, and much more. If you want to partner or sponsor Hitting the Hardwood, please reach out to us at hittingthehardwood@gmail.com, and let's chat about how we can work together to support the ever-growing landscape of women's sports and help the game grow. I want to give a shout out to our current partners here at Hitting the Hardwood and those who help make Hitting the Hardwood happen. Thank you to Pence Homes, Fantasy Sports Evo, Homage, and Better Edge for your continued partnership and your continued support of Hitting the Hardwood and Lynx Happy Hour and your willingness to help make the game grow. Terry, what do you think?
I agree with that. That's kind of my expectation. But Cheryl made it very clear after the last game that the Lynx can't play perimeter defense like they played perimeter defense in that last game of the season. What were the Valkyries in that? I just refreshed my computer, so I don't have any of my box scores open. I'm the picture of preparedness right now. But they're not going to miss. They're not going to miss threes at that level. It wasn't until Ilyana Rupert hit a couple back to back in it was probably the fourth quarter. I think the game was pretty well in hand at that point. They're not, no one's mistaking this team for, being, a group of sharpshooters, but they're going to shoot at a better clip than they did in that last game. And what is interesting about it is that the Lynx swept the season series, but none of those games were particularly, like laughers. This last one, the Lynx just, really blitzed them at the end. But it was, the Valkyries were hanging around the entire time. And I think they've learned how to at least hang around with this Lynx team. And if they can do that, especially in game two, I said this on Happy Hour with Travis, the Lynx have to get off to a good start in game two. Like, I think that, like, the first quarter will be, like, as critical of a first quarter as they've faced so far, because whether that game's at Chase Center, does ball holla travel, whatever, that's going to be a phenomenal atmosphere in San Jose, like the first home playoff game in franchise history. Even if it's just a 1 year history, that crowd is going to be ready. And I will be probably the one person in that arena not making noise and just sitting there stoically watching. I'm very excited for it. But if that's like, sometimes we see like these 12-2 runs against Lynx to start games. And I think that will be a very dangerous gift to a hungry opponent. So I don't anticipate, I think just by, a lot of the stylistically, it's a matchup that favors the Lynx. It feels like a million years ago that Kayla Thornton got hurt. It would be a different story. Courtney credited Kayla with a lot of the credit for disrupting her in game 5 of the finals last year. So if we'd be looking at a little bit different of a defensive matchup if Thornton was in there, but she's not. And I don't think this is a team that particularly keeps you up at night, but one of the best stories we've had in our league in a long time, Natalie Nakase, who probably will win Coach of the Year. I don't know when that award gets announced. And Cheryl would never admit to it, but it would be fun if it gets announced during the series and then Cheryl gets to show all the reasons why she should get Coach of the Year again.
It's just a 97-35 blowout because they gave Natalie the award in front of her.
The award
Natalie
is
accepted in front of Cheryl. And
this might be a little bit of a teaser, but the Coach of the Year award will be announced on Wednesday, which is the same day as Golden State's home game. So
that I don't know if that's a good thing for Golden State.
Yeah. So that might be a little bit of a teaser.
It's gonna happen at that game.
It is.
Oh, and again, Cheryl will not say anything about it though. Like
Nope.
but man. Sorry, no, I'm just
All
thinking
I
about
can
stuff.
say is like Cheryl is a much, and Cheryl or Carly, if you're listening, shout out to you too. But Cheryl is a much better person than I am, because the amount of eye twitching I would have at that trophy presentation of, I have just put together one of the best. I, Cheryl, have assembled this team of Avengers that have run ruckshot through the regular season to the point where we didn't have to play basketball competitively from like
for 2
mid-July
weeks.
to the end of the year.
Yeah.
And someone else is getting the award. But you're right, Terry. Cheryl won't say anything. She'll be very gracious. She'll probably shout Natalie out in the postseason or in the post
Yeah.
game, I would imagine.
And
And that's a tribute to her, because I would be far more petty.
right. And I will I promise I will publish my ballot with explanations on our Patreon at some point here soon. And
Patreon.com/hitting the
but
hardwood.
like the main and I'll talk about like my logic on each award, and the coach of the year thing is just, it's all like, that's the most relative to expectation award. So it's like people are like, oh, we thought the Lynx were going to be good, and they're good, and thus that doesn't require any kind of excellence, because I thought they should be here preseason. So yeah, that's just kind of the short answer there, and we've been talking on it for 10 minutes, so I don't know why I said short, but
it's almost like a most improved team award, kind of. I mean, it usually you see it as a team that's up and coming or had a surprise season. Their coach gets, and they deserve it. But
and I think Cheryl probably said that. I'll go back and listen to that press conference when she got the award last year. But it's like, I don't know why people thought we were gonna be bad.
Yeah,
this is a team with the piece of Collier. And but so that'll be a storyline for Wednesday. Thanks for pointing that out, Mitchell, because that was not on my radar as of yet. But that'll definitely, I'll get to the arena early on Wednesday just to make sure.
I do have some of the announcements. I won't go through all of them because they span from Monday, September 15th to October 7th. So I do not want to bore everybody with reading all of them off. But most improved player will be this Monday. Coach of the year will be Wednesday. Defensive Player of the Year will be Thursday. The announcement to the announcement. So the announcement of the 5 finalists for the MVP award will be Friday. And then we have 6th Player of the Year Saturday and MVP announced on Sunday. And then there are more beyond that. Executive of the Year is Tuesday, September 23rd. And then the all WNBA teams and stuff will be after that. But there's about every day from now until there's a little bit of a gap after the Executive of the Year award, but almost every day from here on out we'll be getting award.
I didn't know this until just this cycle, but the media doesn't vote on Executive of the Year. I think the executives vote on that. So don't get mad at me if your favorite executive. Of course, we have to ride for the executives all the time.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But looking, just to go back to the Golden State Minnesota series, the thing that makes me a little bit more comfortable, I'm not just saying this, I mean, obviously this team is 34-10, they're the best team in the WNBA. They're looking even better than what they were last year, that being the Lynx. But the thing that makes me a little bit more comfortable going into this postseason, not necessarily just the first round, but even beyond the first round, however long they end up playing, this team is battle tested. They went through not a lot of players deal with the loss that Minnesota did, or that grueling 5 games of a WNBA finals like they did last year. Yes, they have some new pieces that are on the roster, but the starting 5 has been there. They know the preparation. That's the biggest thing, the preparation that goes into each series. And I think as a result, because the reason I'm bringing this up is because we were talking about the fast starts to games and how important that is, especially on the road. I think that's going to be huge for Minnesota, because they know what they need to do. They know how to prepare to not only just come out in the first quarter or the first half, but throughout the game. And kind of, it's a marathon, not a sprint in the first quarter and then you taper off. So I am a little bit more comfortable with this team this go around. And Golden State is a great story. Don't get me wrong. It's an outstanding story to make the playoffs in your first year as a franchise. But I think this is maybe the best case scenario for Minnesota matchup wise in the first round.
Yeah.
And I do think, I mean, I think game two will be close, but I could definitely see Minnesota sweeping the series at the very least. Obviously, it's only a three-game series, but taking care of business in game three at
Mm.
Target Center if it gets to that point. But what are your guys' thoughts on ultimately what ends up happening in this series and prediction wise? What are you guys thinking? Terry, I'll start with you.
Oh yeah. Because I had a couple of people. I think shout out to Marissa, Matthew, and other and Michelle, my friends on the Valkyries beat. Uh, and some Velks fans I saw on social media is like, do the Lynx really want to play the Velks that bad? And going into that last game of the season and kind of playing everybody. And I think that was kind of twofold, where you can say the Valks are a better matchup for the Lynx without intending it as any kind of shade or disrespect. The Lynx looked bad in two separate games against Seattle this season. But also, I think the Lynx needed a 19-point victory in front of their fans to just kind of get the groove back a little bit. Even if no matter how unsatisfied coach was with the overall performance, I think that was important. Yeah, I got Lynx in a 2-0 win here. I think this will be a little bit closer. I think this Velks team is better than the Phoenix team they played in the first round last year. I think Natalie is one of the best coaches in the league, and it's just a matter if that momentum swings and they just shoot themselves into a hot night. That seems to be sort of all that they would need. Getting that against the defensive buzzsaw that is the Lynx is a tall order, though. So I got the Lynx 2-0, but I don't expect it to be. I expect it to both games to be pretty close, where you can't really feel great until the last minute or so if you're a Lynx fan.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it'll be 2-0. I'm not as confident that the games will be close. I all season I've been thinking back a lot to Fee after the season last year, saying what she learned from the finals was to make it so games aren't close enough for the refs to matter. And I do think this team going into the playoffs, this is where their revenge tour starts, right? Like the regular season was, hey, we want to put ourselves in position. I do think this team has an edge to it where they are going to want to almost kind of like make an example of like, this is how good we are. And I just, to Terry's point, I just, the Golden State can get hot in a game. If Veronica Burton's hitting threes, if Chechi hits threes, their volume could make a game close. I just don't see how. I mean, again, they play a ton of zone. Cheryl and this offense are like designed to break zones. They do a lot of just perimeter passing. This team's designed to break that. I just don't see how, how Golden State can steal a game without something crazy happening. And then just the edge that this team has, I do think I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 25-point win on Sunday. And then maybe Wednesday is a little closer because that Valkyries team does have a lot of pride and they are talented. But yeah, it's again, to your point of just, did the Lynx really want the Valkyries? I can promise you the Valkyries didn't want the Lynx. That's what I can say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of you. Kind of like I mentioned before, I could definitely see it being a sweep. I think game one's going to be kind of like what we saw in the regular season finale, Minnesota just kind of stepping on the gas and kind of taking care of business. Game two, you're going to see a good response with a team, at home, and Golden State will respond. But that one I think will be a little closer, but I don't think it'll be anything to worry about. But I think Minnesota makes quick work and starts to look ahead to the semifinals. Speaking of, if there's one team that you guys are most surprised, or maybe not surprised of, but worried about in the postseason, who would that be? I'll just start by saying, to me, it's Las Vegas without a doubt. Just the way they're playing their best basketball at the best possible time. You see teams getting hot going into the playoffs that they go on a run. I mean, you look at March Madness, teams that are getting hot in the conference or their conference tournaments. In return, sometimes end up going on a run in the NCAA tournament. I view that the same with the WNBA, and just when you're playing your best basketball at the best possible time, it's tough to beat. To me, it's Las Vegas, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Andrew, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, right? The Giants beat the undefeated Patriots. Sorry, Travis, if you're listening, because they were hot at the right time going into the playoffs. I would say the Aces do worry me just because Asia is putting together this absolute tear, but it's just really hard for me to get out of my head that 500. I think they were 13, 14 and 14 start. It's really hard for me to shake that this team is a fundamentally kind of flawed team. The team I'm really worried about is still Atlanta. Brittany Griner just poses so many problems inside, whether it's defensively, offensive reboundings, just physicality wise. And then the 3-point volume. I mean, they are the number 2 offense in the league because they shoot a ton of threes. They make them at a pretty good clip. They're the number 2 defense in the league because they have this. Again, it does kind of remind me of like the Wolves and Utah's, funnel everything into Rudy type of defense. So if that theoretically holds up in the playoffs, they could be a really difficult matchup for the Lynx just because size and shooting are things that can steal a game. I mean, if Brittany Griner gets 7 offensive rebounds, it's going to be really hard to win that game. If the Dreamer's shooting 60% from 3, it's going to be really hard to win that game. To be completely honest, though, I'm still, until the Lynx really show something that they are faltering or that they have a kind of a fatal flaw, I'd still be willing to put like a mortgage payment on the Lynx winning a championship because they just have not shown any real fatal flaws this year. Their offense is incredible. Their defense is incredible. Despite not having to play a competitive basketball game in 2 months, they still are the 1 offensive team, 1 in defense, 1st in assist to turnover. They're 2nd in true shooting. They're 1st in net rating. And I mean, again, they played a quarter of the season without Fee. They've dealt with injuries. They've dealt with all of these kind of bumps in the road, and they're still just the most dominant team. And that's kind of led me to just, it's like Oklahoma City in the NBA, right? At the end of the season, everyone was kind of trying to pick flaws of like, well, Shea's not going to get the playoff whistle. They're a little too small. What if Chet can't hold up against the centers? But they built a resume of being the best team in the league over an entire season. And then they just kind of ran ruckshot through the playoffs. I kind of anticipate the Lynx will do the same. But yeah, if I had to pick one, I think I would say Atlanta's mine, but I certainly understand the Aces pick too, because their momentum right now and how Asia is cooking has been wild.
Terry, what do you think?
It's the dream. Shout out. Well, thank you for taking every single talking point that existed, Andrew. So just
yes!
The dream. Sure. Well, shout out to great photographer, Sophie Hansen, who shoots for Lavender, who we get the chance to talk to before Lynx home games, whose big concern has been the depth, the bigs all year, and how do they stack up to Atlanta's bigs if that is indeed the finals matchup, which would be the 3rd time these 2 teams would meet in the finals, and it worked well for the Lynx the first 2. Yeah, it's Atlanta more so than Vegas. I think the thing with Vegas is it's still not a great team in the non-Asia minutes. I know it's the playoffs. Asia's capable of like, oh, we can turn this thing around and win a title. I'll play every damn second of every damn game, and I wouldn't put that past her. But they don't. Becky has less bullets in the chamber than a coach like Cheryl does for things like that. And then I mean, the Lynx didn't see a full strength Mercury team all year. They didn't get one matchup with Thomas, Satu, and Ka all on the court, and it's a talented team. The Mercury have the toughest road to get to the finals, but if the higher seeded teams all win in the first round. That's going to be Lynx Mercury in the semis. And, I'm still thinking Lynx in that, but I'm not putting a mortgage on it like Andrew is. So we'll see. And that'll be like, not that you can really say, oh, we beat this team in the regular season, we can beat them in the playoffs now, but that'll be the first matchup. There's not even, you didn't get even to see like what sets they do in person when those three are all on the court at the same time. So there's a lot of familiarity there, but there's also just, a bit of unknown. So I think there'll be a lot I'm looking at if that second round matchup is Lynx Mercury, just because you haven't seen it. Not in any of the games. That was also like not my fear, but just a thing to talk about, I guess, if the Sparks ended up being the 8th seed, because the Lynx essentially played the Sparks 4 times in the first 4 games of the season is what it felt like. And then we haven't seen them since friggin' June. And they, added some pieces around the margin and started playing a whole lot better. And like, okay, what is this team now? So it'll be interesting. They finished up with the Mercury in July, I believe, and they are way, way different now. They kind of stumbled down the stretch too, but man, the case for Alyssa Thomas is for MVP isn't a bad argument either. And all the focus is on Asia and Fee. That is a interesting team and a talented team, and one that has their sights set on a championship as well. So lots of big potential matchups.
Yeah.
Can I add just one thing too?
Yeah.
And Mitch, I'd love to get your thoughts, and Terry, your thoughts on it too. Is just, do you feel a little bit robbed that New York wasn't as good this year, and that we're not probably going to see that kind of revenge 7-game series in the final?
I don't know. I mean, if you get a semifinal matchup, I think it still kind of carries the same weight, but I don't know. I think Minnesota's all right with how it shaked up. If it ends up with a title, I don't really think they care if it was New York or anybody else. That's just me personally, though.
I think the league is sad about it.
That is true.
I'm a little disappointed of just like,
well, I mean,
seven
injury thing, they're
game
still
series,
undefeated when they have Sab, Stu, JJ on the floor at all times healthy. They're 10-0. So when they had all of their horses, they looked like defending champs trying to win another one, and everyone played in their last game. So this might be where the story turns for them. So
that is true. We'll true.
See.
Well, it's playoff basketball. It's the best time of the year. I love that we get to kind of dive into each matchup and kind of overanalyze things. But looking forward to Minnesota Golden State here in the first round, and looking forward to hopefully a deep playoff run. But thank you guys for joining. It's always a blast chatting with you guys, and I know we'll do plenty of it off the air and on the air here throughout the postseason. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Anytime, sure. Mitch.
Thank you, Mitchell. See you at practice in like an hour, Andrew.
See you in an hour, Terry.
Thank you once again to Andrew and Terry for jumping on the podcast. Those two guys, I could literally sit in a room and we could just talk all day long. We can talk sports all day long. We have a group chat, a text thread that we do talk all things sports all day long. But whether when it comes to podcasting or just sitting down and chatting hoops with them, I could literally talk to them all day. Two of the nicest guys, two of the hardest working guys that you'll meet. And two that do just a phenomenal job at covering this team, that being the Minnesota Lynx, as well as the WNBA in general. So thank you to Terry and Andrew for joining. Two great guys. Happy to have them on the Hitting the Hardwood team, and looking forward to working with them moving forward. With that said, I also want to give a shout out to our partners, because our partners, as I mentioned earlier before the recording of the podcast, we could not do this without our partners and the support of our partners who give back to Hitting the Hardwood. Big supporters of women's basketball, big supporters of the Minnesota Lynx, and we've grown our family when it comes to sponsorships this year and partnerships, and we really appreciate all the support that they do. So I'll outline some of the partners that we have. But before I get into that, if you or someone want to become a partner, you can reach out to us. You can go to our partners page on the website. We have our sponsorship levels listed there. We have coverage throughout the year round, not just in season, not just in postseason, year round. And we have different sponsorship levels in there. And if there's something in there that you're not seeing that you want to inquire about, send us an email, hittingthehardwood@gmail.com. I'm happy to chat about how we can work together and help grow the game because that's the most important part. But first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to Pence Homes, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team. They're phenomenal. Nate's a big Lynx fan. You'll see him at WNBA games. He's doing ticket giveaways all the time. He's continuously giving back to Lynx fans, as well as he wants to give back to the community. And if you are buying or selling a home, you need to be reaching out to Pence Homes. You need to be reaching out to Nate Pence and his team because they should be your top option. Whether you're buying or selling a home, and they're just dedicated to your home ownership goals. That's very hard to say. But you can check out Pence Homes at pencehomes.com. Send them an email at info@pencehomes.com, or give them a call at 612-308-1122. Second of all, I want to give a shout out to Fantasy Sports Evo and Firehawk Construction and Remodeling. Fantasy Sports Evo, we'll start with them. Fantasy Sports Evo, they've been a multi-year supporter of Hitting the Hardwood. They're a daily fantasy sports platform that is made for all sports fans, where you bet on not just players, but you bet on teams. And if you go to Fantasy Sports Evo and you use the promo code LYNX, you receive a 100% deposit match plus $10 in playable credits. And now is the perfect time to be doing that as the postseason is getting started. So please go check out our friends at Fantasy Sports Evo, as well as Firehawk Construction and Remodeling. Isaac and the team at Firehawk Construction and Remodeling are here to give back to those in the community. They're located in Blaine and serving the North Metro area. But they're here for all of your building and remodeling needs. And they have a brand new website that you can go check out. You can find that on our partners page. Or you can give Isaac a call at 763-710-5686. His email address is also on our website as well. But go support Firehawk Construction and Remodeling because they support Hitting the Hardwood and they support you and everything that you need when it comes to your remodeling needs. Lastly, I want to give a shout out to Better Edge and Homage. They have been day one supporters of Hitting the Hardwood, and they've been phenomenal. Better Edge does great work with supporting women's basketball, promoting women's basketball, and they're great supporters of Hitting the Hardwood as well. Minneapolis-based sports betting company that is one of my favorite platforms to be able to use. What's better than as of right now, you can get, they have playoff leagues going on, playoff competitions. Now is the perfect time to go to Better Edge, and that's BETTOR edge.com. If you go to betteredge.com/links and use a promo code links, you get free $20 to use when you are betting. So now is the perfect time to go check out our friends at betteredge.com and get those bets in. Homage, as I'm recording this podcast, I'm wearing this brand new orange WNBA hoodie that I just purchased through Homage. But it is phenomenal, by the way. I'm not to get too deep into it, but I'm wearing a WNBA t-shirt underneath. I'm very on brand today. But they're both Homage clothing items. But Homage, they offer a variety of current WNBA gear, vintage merchandise. And if you go to our partners page, you'll see on there are two hyperlinks. Ones that you can buy Minnesota Lynx items or WNBA items. If you purchase those or click on those links, and then make a purchase, that all of that money that it doesn't cost you anymore, but a portion of that money, I should say, a portion of that money comes back to support Hitting the Hardwood. So you're kind of doing a dual purpose thing. You're already buying the gear that you want. And in return, your support Hitting the Hardwood, which we really appreciate. But thank you again to all of our partners. Like I said, we could not do it. It's been another phenomenal season with working with our partners, and we are so, so grateful for their support and their dedication to us and helping this game grow. Now that I'm done blabbering, I really do appreciate you joining the podcast this week. I really am looking forward to this postseason because I really think it's going to be a really fun playoffs, and it's kind of wide open. So it'll be a lot of fun. We're here. We're ready to get rolling. And the next basically month and a half will be just wall-to-wall WNBA coverage and playoff coverage. And hopefully it's a long playoff run for the Minnesota Lynx. But we'll be here to cover it all, and we'll be here with podcasts, written content, Patreon content, and everything between. So enjoy the playoffs. Enjoy this WNBA action that we're going to be seeing here in the first round semifinals and WNBA finals. Thank you for listening. Thank you for support. If you can like, share, subscribe, rate the podcast, would really, really appreciate that. Give us a follow on social medias, Hitting the Hardwood across all social medias. But we do really appreciate all the support. We could not do this without you guys. We could not do this without listeners, Lynx fans, WNBA fans, and everyone in between. So thank you very much. Enjoy the playoffs, and I'll talk to you guys next time.